This episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast is brought to you by the Podcast T-Shirt Collection. Are you a lawntrepreneur and want to show your support for Lawn Care Nation? Well, why not sport one of my new podcast T-shirt designs? They're available on Amazon.com, and for you Prime members, you get free 2-day shipping. Go check them out at Amazon.com/shop/Lawn Care Business Success. And thanks for your support. You're listening to the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast, the weekly show sharing proven methods and systems in marketing, equipment, and customer service, educational and motivational, to help make your lawn care business an overwhelming success. Now here's your host, Julio Tomei. Welcome, Lawn Care Nation, to another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I'm your host, Julio Tomei, and this is episode number 149, entitled The Change to My Website That Got Me 3 New Clients in the First Day. Well, hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining me this week on another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I really appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week and downloading those episodes, and of course, for the questions, the comments, the feedback that you guys have been sending through to me. I really do appreciate that, especially when you guys are sending your feedback and suggestions for the show. You can, of course, do this through email, and if you'd rather leave, a voicemail message, if you don't feel like typing out a long-winded sort of comment about the show or suggestions, you can always go to the website lawncarebusinesssuccess.com and leave a voicemail using the gray Leave Voicemail tab that you see on the right-hand side. And once you click that, it'll just prompt you to record a voicemail message. You can also take that opportunity, if you'd like, to create an opening of the show where you basically introduce yourself, your company name, maybe where we can find you on Instagram or your YouTube channel, and just let people know that you're listening to the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. You've heard me play a few of these in the past from past guests, as well as from others who have submitted these, and they're always fun to have on hand there and to include in the show. And like I said, you guys can do that by going to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com and looking for that gray Leave Voicemail tab on the right-hand side. Just another note, again, I just want to thank everybody who has been, supporting me and the content that I create, notably by purchasing t-shirts through Amazon.com. As most of you guys know by now, I have a line of t-shirts, t-shirt designs that I've come up with. And have been available on Amazon.com since February. And the clear winner so far of all of those designs is my Lawntrepreneur shirt. A lot of you guys have been in the past month purchasing that shirt, and I really do appreciate you guys supporting me and the content I create by purchasing the shirt there. If you're interested in looking at a shirt or seeing what designs I have available, I have them all up on my Amazon affiliate store. You can find it at amazon.com/shop/lawn care business success. And there you'll see the t-shirt designs that I have currently. And for any new ones that I come up with in the future, there'll be, some new versions and new styles, constantly being generated there and put on display there for you guys to purchase if you so like, and if you would like a way to help support me and the content that I create to help fund the endeavor and all of the ongoing fees for media hosting and all this sort of stuff that goes into the Lawn Care Business Success content. So this week's episode, I wanted to talk a bit about a change I made to my website that basically was to help with efficiency. Now, with springtime, I've talked about over the past few weeks how it's been getting very, very busy. I talked about last week, I think it was last week, or it might have been the episode earlier, where I talked about how I was mowing the lawn and I came back after mowing the lawn and my phone had 8 voicemail messages on it from customers looking for estimates. Well, this trend has continued almost on a daily basis, and the clear record right now so far for me is this past week where I mowed a lawn, I came back and there was 13 voicemail messages in that span of a half an hour of me mowing that lawn. So it's been extremely busy. To the point where I'd almost say at times too busy, where, I cannot keep up with the amount of calls and having to call people back and all that sort of stuff. So this week's episode is going to talk about a change I made to help make that more efficient for me. So I'm just going to play the podcast announcements and then we'll get into the episode and what I did in its entirety right after this. So stay tuned. Hey guys, if you have any questions or comments about the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/contact. And while you're there, why not join my mailing list and get access to a free PDF document of a landscape maintenance contract you can feel free to copy and use in your own business. For you Instagram users out there, be sure to follow me at lawncarebusinesssuccess. And if you haven't checked out my videos yet, well, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe to the Lawn Care Business Success YouTube channel. Now, I know you guys love listening to audio while you work as much as I do, so I've partnered up with Audible to offer you guys a free 30-day trial and 2 free audiobooks of your choice. There's no long-term commitments, and you can cancel anytime. And get this, even if you cancel during your free trial period, you still get to keep the 2 free audiobooks. It's a great way to try the service and to see if Audible is right for you. So why not give it a try? Head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/audible. Now back to the show. Okay, guys, so before the podcast announcements there, I was talking about how it's been extremely busy in my lawn care business this past spring with just the amount of calls coming through that I just cannot keep up with it at times. Of course, the trend seems to be sort of the same, where if the weather is a bit cloudy or if it's raining or anything like that, then the phones are relatively quiet. You do get, 1 or 2 calls, but for the most part, it's nothing crazy. But as soon as the sun starts shining and people are spending, more time outside, then the phones they literally blow up. So much so that, I've had to ensure that in the truck I have a charger for my phone, because the battery just keeps draining with the constant amount of calls coming in. And of course, trying to keep up with my Instagram and all that sort of stuff as well. But the constant calls, the vibration, motor in that phone uses up quite a bit of energy. So I find that the phone is draining a lot quicker. So I've had to make sure that, I always have that extra charger in the truck permanently. And I will actually plug in the phone in between houses now as I'm driving from location to location, just to get that extra few minutes of juice each and every time. Now, like I said, at times, this past week especially, it sort of, hit a fever pitch where you're trying to get your mowing done. You have your list of regular clients, regular visits that you're trying to do in a timely fashion. And, I've talked about how I work from 9 till 2 o'clock typically throughout the season. The start of this spring, for me, I've been having to extend that just to be able to try to keep up or try to make a dent in things. And, I've been working typically this beginning of this spring here from 9 to 6 every day. And sometimes even a bit later than that. And it's just from, like I say, the amount of calls that are coming in. I'll be, typically like that example I gave where there was 13 messages on my phone. And, I'll look at it and go, okay, there's 13 messages on my phone from clients trying to contact me to arrange for me to go do an estimate. And I still haven't gotten through to, the 6 or the 5 or the 4, from between the last house when I was mowing and the phone was ringing. And it's just, insane. So ultimately there are clients that are just getting lost in the shuffle because I just can't keep up. And, a lot of them are for jobs that are like one-time mowing. The typical springtime, homeowner who has no interest in hiring a mowing service, but, they can't get their lawnmower started. They left gas in it and stuff all winter. And of course, on a cheap 21-inch lawnmower, it's, the carbs are probably all clogged up and all that from the stale gas sitting in it. So they want you to do, the mowing, and a lot of them are like super overgrown because they're just calling now in May when we've been mowing here since mid-March. I quoted one on Friday that was like that. It was just like up to my knees, the grass hadn't been cut yet, and they were telling me that they couldn't get their lawnmower started. So they were, taking it into these lawnmower shops, but these lawnmower shops are obviously getting slammed as well. So the wait for them is, it can be weeks and weeks before they're going to see their lawnmower back. So, it's this conundrum of these types of calls, or somebody calling just for an aeration, or somebody calling for, lawn renos, power raking, overseeding, that sort of stuff. And all the while, I'm trying to, keep my regular clients happy. They are, of course, the priority because they are the ones that pay the bills all year long. These one-time clients, unfortunately, get pushed to the side and will basically get either quoted or I will just let them know that it's too busy, that I can't get to it, because the regular clients always come first, and all of the work that they ask me to do. And ultimately I'm only one person. So, getting through all of the mows that I have from regular clients, and then any new client that's looking for regular lawn mowing service, of course, gets the priority as well over, these calls that are coming in that are just for a one-time, can you mow my foot tall grass? Or even something like an aeration or something like that. Because again, these are clients that I can line up and, have them long-term, which is always my focus, is having the long-term mowing clients over the, one-off jobs. The one-off jobs are a necessary evil, I would say, when you're first starting out, when you're new in the business and you're hungry for work, because at that point you have a lot more time than you have work. So you will do all that sort of stuff over the years. And that stuff isn't bad, like doing a one-off aeration and all that sort of stuff. It's not bad. It's just not an efficient use of your time. Because in a lot of cases, these clients want you to, come look at my overgrown lawn. I need it cut. So this requires you to phone them first, return their message if you haven't answered the call right away. Then if you're lucky enough, you get a hold of them. If you're not, you leave a message and you start the phone tag, and then they phone you back. When you eventually are able to talk to them, you get, to make arrangements to go see their property. You drive to go see their property. You give them an estimate, either live if they're there, or maybe through email, or you phone them if they're not around. And then you make arrangements for when you're going to cut it, whether you can cut it right there or, at the time, if they're maybe available and, are able to pay you at the time. If not, then you would make arrangements to come back, because obviously, you want to make sure, especially with a one-off customer, that you're going to get paid for that, especially a nasty, over tall grass situation where it's going to take you a lot of time and effort. So it's not the most efficient use of your time. There's a lot of wasted time there. The phoning back and forth, the driving to go look at their property, the quoting of it, and then there's also no guarantee that they'll even hire you to do the job in the end. So this is also the case, with regular type of clients too, ones that want regular lawn mowing. But in those cases, obviously, the reward is much greater because you're securing an account for a year at a time, usually. And most of these clients will then stick with you over the long term. At least this is what I've found over the years, is that, once I sign up a customer, unless they're moving or they pass away, then I've got that account for, a longer period of time. So as you get older or more established in your business is more popular, your presence online starts to grow, the SEO and all that sort of stuff, online, where your business starts to rank, starts to show up, when people are doing searches, you start to shy away from those one-time only jobs because they're not as profitable, having to go through all of that to do a one-time mowing. Whereas, and there's more than enough of the regular calls, the calls of people looking for long-term service, that you tend to focus on that. So that's where I am in my business. I've talked about how I don't do any, extra special advertising for my business anymore. I've actually got a few boxes of probably a few thousand postcards still that I had made up at Vistaprint the last time I had cards made up. Beautiful, glossy, postcards that were meant for door to door. And I just don't put them out anymore because there's just too many normal, organic calls that come in through the website and through having Google Places, that I haven't needed to do that. And, I talked about in the past how even, I changed or rebranded my company. I left the franchise that I was with back in 2010. I started my own brand. I rebranded it to focus on route density and to focus on a specific area of my city, and actually renamed my company after that local area to basically let people know this is, where I work. This is, if you need mowing, this is the company you call for mowing in this area. And it has been, tremendously successful in that aspect of having sort of the branding of the area that I work in. It's simple for people to remember when they see you driving by, and then having the website correlate with that name exactly. Basically just the companyname.com makes it very simple for people to remember, to refer back to look up on their phone after. They don't have to remember a phone number or anything like that. So I've used this to my advantage. Now, what I've been finding this past, few weeks here, the beginning of spring, and I will say that this spring thus far has been probably the busiest spring I've had since I started my own brand in 2010. It's always been busy, but this year in particular has just been exceptionally busy. And the amount of calls that I get in, on a daily basis is, like I say, it's can be overwhelming. And I was finding that it was just like I could not get ahead. I could spend, I could mow a lawn, and like I say, there'd be all these messages. When I'd get back to the truck, listen to these messages. I would have to, people that are calling and leaving message, I have to, get my notepad. I have to jot down their information as I'm listening to the message. A lot of people are mumbling on the phone. A lot of people don't realize how fast they're talking when they're, say, giving me their phone number or their contact details. And I have to keep replaying that part of the message over and over. Then I get to the, listen to the next one, then the next one, and it's the same process, repeats and repeats and repeats. And the next thing I know, I finished mowing that lawn, but I'm still sitting in my truck for 20 minutes later, trying to just jot down all the details of all these messages and putting them in order, of when they came in. I write the date of when, that message came in. I usually just take their name, their phone number, the address if they're leaving it, and that sort of thing. And, then I'm trying to call them back, and 90% of the time now they're not answering the phone, so I'm having to leave a message. And then, like I said, that phone tag starts to continue back and forth, and then I'm off, either mowing lawns again, and then they're calling back, and I'm not hearing the phone or not feeling the phone. And then the process continues, and it's just this huge amount of wasted time. And then on top of it, all these new calls are coming in at the same time. So as you can see, it can just get overwhelming. And that's where I found myself this week. And I was like, there has to be a better way to do this. So I started to think about, what could I change? What could I do to make the process simpler, to make it streamlined? So I thought, well, what if I've talked about the past how I use or have that form on my website for a free estimate. And considering most of, the calls that come in are from people that find me on the internet, but not all of them will use the form. A lot of them just, see the phone number, and then, their first inclination is to phone the phone number. So I was like thinking, well, how can I get all these people that are either seeing me on the road and looking me up and phoning? Because, that is ultimately how they're finding me. They're not finding me from postcard, because I'm not delivering postcards. They're not finding me from a newspaper ad, because I don't have any newspaper ads. They're not, finding me from a billboard or anything. They may be seeing my trailer in traffic, but even then, the chances that they're writing down my phone number are probably pretty slim, because, like I said, the website address is right there, and it's simple to remember. You don't even have to write it down, because it's basically, like I said, the name of the area that I live in and work in, plus mowing.com. So very, very simple. If you're in the area, the name. It's very, very simple. So, my thinking is that probably 99% of these people, these calls that are coming, are people that are taking the first step and looking me up on the internet. Either they're searching for lawn care in my area and my information pops up, or they've seen me drive by or seen my trailer or have recognized the brand because of the route density. And, it's been a few years now that it's, the brand is becoming quite recognizable. That, then they're, remembering, oh yeah, I should call that company. So they'll, do a quick internet search with my company name. And ultimately, they're taken to my website and they're looking up the information there and then calling me. So I was trying to think, like, how can I get everybody, or at least the majority of people, to use the free estimate form on my website, because it would take their information, take their name, their address, their email address. It has a selection of services that they can click on. And when they hit submit, I'm emailed that information automatically from my website, as well as the app that I use also stores all of that information. If I need to refer back to it in chronological order, I can go back in history, days, weeks, months, years, with every single submission that was ever entered on my website. So now, whether they're talking fast, in a message, or, any of that, they're filling out that information for me. So now I just have it on record on my phone, in email as well as in the app. And I can, refer back to it. If I go to click on to phone them back, if I need to, I don't even have to type out their phone number, because the phone number is there in a sort of clickable sense where I can just touch their phone number in the app and it dials their number. Their address is there. I can look it up on Google and, see the area that I'm, that they're in, or see, get a sort of an idea of their lawn before I even talk to them. But what I had going, with this form was basically I just had, take their name, their phone number, their email address, and I had, what services would you like an estimate for? And that was it. And when somebody submits a request, the website automatically generates a response email that gets sent back to them. That's just so that they can confirm that, yes, we received your email. And it just says that somebody will be in contact with you shortly to arrange a free estimate. So this is where the problem was, coming in for me. Because not only was I getting people that were calling and leaving voicemails that I would then have to return those calls for, but anybody who was doing the online submission, I basically had it set up to where they sent me their information, what they want to quote for it, but then I'd still have to phone them first and, talk to them and arrange the estimate. So I thought, well, how can I basically get everybody who calls, or the majority of them at least, to urge them to go to the website and leave the submission online? And how can I streamline that process for me to make it a lot quicker so I don't have to deal with a phone tag? So here's the sort of solution that I came up with last week, that I implemented. I thought about it for a couple days. Didn't get around to doing it for a few days. Just life got in the way, got too busy. Finally got a moment where I thought, okay, let me sit down here. Let me, pull up my website, log into it where I can, update it and change some stuff in WordPress. And work on that form. So what I did was I changed it so that now, so it asks for the customer's first and last name. It asks for their address. It asks for their email address, and these are all mandatory fields. It doesn't let them continue on without filling out this information. It asks 2 questions now. So after their personal information and address, it says, if your estimate or work required to be done requires access to your backyard, are there any dogs loose during the day in the backyard? Yes or no? And they have to select one of those answers. Then the next question goes, if the estimate or work to be done requires access to the backyard, is your gate locked or unlocked during the day? and they have to select one of those. And then after that, it says the list of services, and it says to select, which services they want an estimate for. And then I added a customer notes or comments section under that if they want to give sort of specific details on what they want done. So that was the first step to my process and what I did, what I changed. The second regarded my my voicemail on my phone. So when a customer used to call me, it would go into this, thanks for calling my, business. We're unable to get to the phone right now. Told them the business hours when we're closed on weekends and holidays. Said that, if we don't answer the phone, it's either because we're, busy on the phone, or we're on a piece of equipment that's too noisy and we can't hear the phone, to please leave a detailed message after the tone. What I changed it to now is basically, thanks for calling my company, business hours are such and such, and then I go into a please note. Due to the overwhelming amount of calls and workload during peak season, we are not always able to return calls or messages within a timely manner. And here's the key, for quicker service, please use our online free estimate request form, and then I give them the website address. So who doesn't want quicker service? Everybody wants quicker service. So I'm basically telling them, if you leave a voicemail, I may not be able to get back to you because it's just way too busy, way too crazy. But if you go to my website and leave your information there, you'll get quicker service. The third part of this now that I changed was the response email, the automatic response email that my website generates when a customer submits their information. So before, they would get that email right away after they'd submit their information that would say, thank you for your, interest in the company. Somebody will contact you shortly to arrange a free estimate. So now it basically says something to, in the line of, thank you for submitting your information. In most cases, we will come out to do an estimate within 7 days, and we'll either contact you by phone or email with your estimate. So why did I do the 7 days thing? Well, because I was finding that a lot of times I would be mowing for the point of efficiency and route density. I have customers that are all grouped together as close as possible. And what I find in the past is sometimes you would, be in one area, you'd be mowing that one day, and now the next day you're going to mow in the next area. And you'd get a call from somebody who saw you yesterday in that first area, and they want, maybe regular mowing service. But I don't want to drive all the way back to that other area. I do that on that other day. So, and in most cases, as long as you're contacting them or letting them know what's going on, it's fine. So what I do is I put in that 7 days because it gives me that leeway to go, worst case scenario, if the person's calling me the day after I was working in that neighborhood, that, in the worst possible case scenario, it may take me a week if I'm super busy when I'm back in that neighborhood to do that quote. And that keeps my route density and keeps my efficiency going. And, the latest they'll have to wait is a week. But in most cases, if I can squeeze it in, or, in a lot of cases, it's just somebody who's randomly calling that will fall in one of the next, 2 or 3 days. And then obviously they're getting a response quicker. But by just putting that, then they know what to expect. So I put these things into place. And the other thing that I changed was on my submission form on my website at the top, I just basically, put a little sort of explanation of, just leave your information below what you want to think, and basically saying that same thing that, somebody will, you'll get an estimate within, 7 days. So what did I find? Well, as the title of this podcast episode, implied, I got very successful results, because now what this whole change has done is basically it's cut out the need for me to have to call the customer back when they submit their information. I don't have to waste a bunch of time, number one, listening to a voicemail message, having to try to write down details of their address and phone number and replaying the same message over and over again to catch, if they're talking too fast or they're mumbling. They've, written out all the information for me. Number two, I've given them room to leave comments on specific details if they, want to explain something to me. And it cuts out the need by having those two questions about the gate being locked or is there dogs in the backyard. I know, and it lets them know that I will be by to have a look at their property. There's no need for me to phone them now. And it basically gives me the permission that I need to go into their backyard and look around at the job that they are requesting an estimate for. So like I say, I immediately saw results from this, and it was actually hilarious. I was literally laughing to myself because I made these changes to the website. When I was done the changes, I literally got a call on my phone like 10 minutes later. And I was like, well, I could answer this, but let's put it to the test. So I let it go to voicemail. And the funny thing is, after about 2 minutes, I got an email with that customer's information. And they marked off no dogs in the backyard, that the gate's unlocked, what they wanted an estimate for. Done. And, the next call came in, and the next call after that, and the next call after that. And each and every time, it's funny because these were times where I could actually answer the phone, but I was wanting to test it, so I was purposely not answering the phone. And in each and every case, people would leave their information. They'd listen to that voicemail and it would say, we can't get to the phone. And the funny thing is, most of these customers that are, from my experience, when in the past few years, when I would talk to customers and they would, be looking for an estimate, they'd be like, I've talked about this before on the podcast, where they would say something like, well, you're the only company to call back. We've called all these companies. Nobody ever returns their calls. So they already know when they're looking for estimates, they're calling other companies. They're getting that from other people. It's just so busy at the time that when they get to mine and they hear that message, we're basically saying right out, hey, we're not going to be able to answer or return your call in a timely fashion. But if you want that quicker service, go to our website, which in 99% of the cases, they've already just visited to get my phone number, and leave your submission there in the free estimate, and we'll get back to you sooner. And like I said, call after call after call, just in the first few days of doing this, all resulted in online submissions. And it was interesting because each time somebody would call, like I say, I would let it go to voicemail, and then a few minutes later, I would get a notification that, somebody requested a free estimate on my website. Now, how did this turn into 3 new clients in the first day? Well, the next day, as I finished, those changes after work one evening, I put this to the test because the next day, throughout my route, I was able to then look at these submissions that had come in the night before, saw some of them that were in areas that I was working in that next day. And throughout my day, instead of having to waste time and call customers and arrange an estimate and all that sort of stuff, I would just look and go, oh, here's one. It's on the next street. There's no dog in the backyard during the day. The gate's unlocked. Here's what they want an estimate for. And they left, maybe a note. Maybe they didn't leave a note. Either way, I would go visit the house, go into the backyard, look around, and then I would go back to the truck. And right there, I have a form email that I use that basically is pre-typed. It just says, hey, I put the customer's name. I put in the subject line, lawn care estimate for, and then the address. In the email, it just says, hi, such and such. And then the form email starts from there, where it just says, as per your request, it came by, looked at your property for, lawn service. Here below is your estimate. And then I have a bunch of standard services filled out: lawn care, aeration, lime, fertilizer, all that sort of stuff. I have my base prices already filled into those. And then underneath that, I go into all of the lawn care weekly sort of policies about, dog waste and making sure that's picked up so you don't incur an animal waste surcharge, how it's billed once a month to Visa or MasterCard, how I put grass clippings in the city bin that gets picked up each week by the city. All those sort of policies are all listed there. Anything that they would have a question about as far as lawn service goes is all listed there. I basically copy and paste it. I use a little app on my iPhone called Clips, which basically is a clipboard. It lets you save text, and it has makes it available either in a widget on the widget screen on the iPhone, or in a keyboard that you can access. And basically when I, go to an email, like I said, I put their, lawn mowing estimate address in the subject line. Then I go to that keyboard, that Clips keyboard. I select that email that I want to add, click on it, it automatically pastes it into the email, and then I change the name of the person at the top, and I change the prices of the services, and that's it. Super fast to do. Don't have to write out a long email or anything like that. Super fast, super easy. And I, hit, send. And then the other thing, of course, is that email submission that I get with the customer's information filled in with the form that they filled in. I hit reply to that because then, I don't have to type out their email address. It goes right to them. I paste in that form letter that I just discussed. And then when I hit send, it shows me, obviously, the reply little arrow. So if I go back through my inbox of all of those email submissions that I got, I can see which ones I've gotten through and responded with quotes. So it makes it very easy to, organize in that sense. So like I said, I went through this that first day. I went, did a bunch of them, and got replies back right away from 3 customers saying to go ahead with the job. Within a matter of, a few hours, I was able to, get a bunch of estimates done throughout the course of my day without wasting any time on phone calls and talking to people. I was able to send off estimates and people replied back. And I just realized that, people like me don't like to waste their time. They don't want to, waste time chit-chatting and talking on the phone and all that sort of stuff. They just want efficiency. And like I said before, with my aim of my lawn care is to make it super simple for people where they don't have to do anything. This just makes that, or extends that part of it, where even through the quotation process now, it just takes down those barriers, makes it very, very simple. And they can decide whether they want it or not based on the estimate, but it's done. And it's done at my convenience. And I can fit it in and don't have to worry about it. So far it's working great. It's been about, half a week or so. I'm really very pleased with the results. But it just goes to show to, always be looking for those efficiencies. I've have a podcast episode in the past where I did about efficiencies, but this is just one more that, it's just, has worked out fantastically. Thinking about how can I streamline this? How can I make this easier? How can I make it so that me as a single person can, take on a lot more of these calls and be able to efficiently estimate them. And it's worked out great and has actually gotten me, a bunch of jobs already lined up and nice long-term, more regular clients. Now, the nice thing about this too is I get still calls from all over the city, even though I don't service the whole city. So the other nice thing is that by getting people to leave their information, I can see where they live and if I service those areas. Instead of having to call them, wasting time, and then finding out where they live, and then it results into nothing, where now I get that information up front. And if I don't service the area, I can just quickly send them a quick email and just say, hey, we don't service that area. Thank you for your interest in my company, but unfortunately, we don't service this area. Now, the other nice thing is that this week that actually happened, where I got a estimate or a request for an estimate in a part of the city that is way too far for me to go to. And I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to service this. I'm going to, send them back a response saying that, I don't service this area. But as I was typing the response, I thought, hey, that guy that I met at my equipment dealer day, who recognized me from the podcast and the videos and stuff and came over to talk to me and thank me for all my content and stuff, he said that he works in that area. So I thought, well, what if I tell this customer that I can't, service this area? We don't service, you're out of the, our service area, but I do know of another company, if you would like me to forward your information to, that does service this area. And I said in the email, just let me know, reply to this message and just let me know that it's okay for me to forward your information to this other company and I'll have them contact you. So I sent that off, and I had at the same time Instagram messaged this other person and said, hey, are you interested in a regular lawn mowing job in your, close to this area? Do you service this area? So he responded back, yeah, I service that area. So I said, okay, let me just contact the customer and make sure it's okay. So like I said, I sent that off. The customer responded saying, thank you very much. And yes, you have my permission to send or give that other company my information. So I forwarded the email request form from my website right to that other service provider and let him, have that job. So, it worked out really well. And, of course, instead of not responding to the customer or just saying, hey, I can't do this, in this case, it's like, I can't do this, but I know somebody who may be able to, so I can still helping or still serving them in that way. So hopefully you guys, have a website up and running. Hopefully you guys have a, request a free estimate form on your own website, and you may want to consider doing something like this to sort of train or guide your customers in the path that you want to make things more efficient and make it easier for you to service them and give them the best possible experience. Even when times are very, very busy, during certain points. So that's it for this one, guys. Here's to wishing you guys all overwhelming success and freedom in your lawn care business. Bye for now.